Your data is like gold to hackers, and they'll sell it to the highest bidder. Are you protected? McAfee helps shield you, blocking suspicious texts, malicious emails, and fraudulent websites. McAfee Secure VPN lets you browse safely, and its AI-powered text scam detector spots threats instantly. You'll also get up to $2 million of award-winning antivirus and identity theft protection, all for just $39.99 for your first year. Visit McAfee.com. Cancel anytime. Terms apply.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Hey, Giants fans, this is Chris Franklin from NJ Advanced Media, and welcome to the Talk is Cheap podcast, the show where we discuss all things related to the New York Giants. Now, before we begin, I want to remind you that you can read our content on NJ.com/Giants, and be sure to bookmark that to get the latest Giants news and analysis. Well, it's time here for the scouting combine in Indianapolis, and the Giants are all of a sudden, they're the team that everybody's talking about right now. And we're going to get more into that right now with Giants beat reporter Ryan Novozinsky. Ryan, how's it going, man?
It's going good, Chris. It's going well. Like I remember at the Super Bowl, the any talk of the Giants, like anytime they'd come up, and it would just be, bashing them for Saquon and stuff like that, and rightfully so. This when I talk to anybody like that, the national perception of the Giants was a laughingstock. Now it's like, I don't know if they've shed the laughingstock thing. They certainly haven't, but there's more interesting things to talk about now. Hey, Matt Stafford. Hey, Shedeur Sanders. Hey, whoever the heck it's going to be. But I think right now, all the smoke seems to be on Matt Stafford. So I'm sure we will get into that right away.
Yep, and that's our opening drive topic that we're going to get into right now, is the whole entire Matthew Stafford thing, which for me is kind of weird that the Giants are even being mentioned with that. For those who may not know, Matthew Stafford has been given permission to seek a trade from the Los Angeles Rams, and it's not like Stafford is struggling at it by any means. When you look at the way that he played last year, he completed 65.8% of his passes for 3,762 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions, and came within a couple plays away from knocking off the Eagles in the divisional round in that crazy snow game. Well, now all of a sudden he's looking for suitors, and it appears the Giants are one of the teams, along with the Raiders, with reports, depends on who you listen to, that the Raiders met Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford met by coincidence or not in Montana, but who knows? But the Giants are still in the mix with this, in the mix for his services. Ryan, is this all just smoke, or do you think this is actually legit? And do you think they have a legit shot at getting him?
So if you asked me earlier in the week, I would have said, hey, this is just, of course, there's a quarterback. So a team, that needs a quarterback is going to be tied to that quarterback. This is real. And I spoke to somebody, a team source earlier in the week, that they said to me unprompted that this is very, very real. And the word that they added was that the Giants are hellbent on acquiring Matthew Stafford. Mix that with some of the other reports that have kind of shaken out this week. Dan Duggan at The Athletic just reported recently that Stafford Stafford's reps, like you mentioned, like they met with Stafford himself met with Tom Brady somehow, some way in Montana, but the Giants met with Stafford's camp here in Indianapolis. So yeah, the smoke is definitely getting thick here, but it's certainly real, and whether it's a good idea or not. I'm writing this for the morning, so I'm sure it'll be out around the time that we post this. But it depends on one thing. This working depends on what the Giants do with that number 3 pick. First of all, do not even think about trading this for Matt Stafford. Do not even think about doing that. But number 2, you got to use that pick not on a quarterback, because this quarterback class kind of stinks, right? Use that pick on Travis Hunter, right? I think he fits kind of the team more than more than a lot of other teams. He fits the Giants' needs more than a lot of any of the other teams in the top 5 there. You take him, you add his offense, and I heard a lot this week that people are almost sleeping on his offensive abilities, and that a lot of teams across the league even view him as somebody that can boost the offense and maybe not in just a limited package type of role. You draft him, you get Matt Stafford, you have a home run free agency, then we will have to start having a different conversation about the Giants next year. The one thing that worries me is that all of this is going to be for nothing because their schedule is so dang hard next year. And I know you know that well. So that's the one thing. That's the thing that gives me pause a little bit. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think, yes, to answer your question in a very long and winded way, this is very real. Very, very real.
There's a lot of good stuff in there. And according to Over the Cap, when you look at Stafford, what he's owed next year, it's a big chunk of money in the salary cap. Sure, they can restructure and they can do all stuff, but when you look at it, he's going to count $23 million to the base salary cap. $23 million is his base number. $49.6 million is to that cap. And part of that is he's due a roster bonus of $4 million on March 19th, which is just, that's insane, but he's deserved. He's a Super Bowl champion. But when you look at this overall, I get the sense like this is a move when you look at if you have all the pieces and you know that that you know you have a good defense, that you have enough offensive pieces to say, okay, we can contend for a championship. And to me, I just don't know about this with the Giants right now. I know that flame that's under the butts of Joe Shane and Brian Dable is pretty hot right now. It's pretty close, and they're probably jumping in a way like a Looney Tunes character would be when it's that close. But it's still, to me, I just don't know, like, is this really worth it? And you just look at that, like you mentioned Malik Neighbors, and if they get Travis Hunter, which I think would be a good pick for them because it solves two needs in a way. They need another explosive receiver. They can put, like you mentioned, a package, and they need a lockdown corner, given the wide receivers they have to face in this division. I just look at it as like, I just don't know if this is enough to even make them a wild card team in this thing. And if that's the case, you're giving up significant assets. I don't think they're going to give up 3, but you're giving up significant assets on a team that needs to rebuild and you can't do anything with it. The whole thing just doesn't make sense for me from the Giants' perspective. I don't know.
It's interesting though. You almost look at it, and if you just look, you'll see it on like the Mel Kiper mock draft, stuff like that. You'll see like the team needs, right? The position needs, like stuff like that. The Giants' position needs right now, if you kind of break them down, it's like there's not as many as you'd think, right? They need a guard, they need a right guard, they need a wide receiver too if they don't get Slayton back. They need a corner. Obviously that is 3 pretty significant positions, and obviously they need a quarterback. That's 3 or 4 or 5 significant positions. However, the big question is, okay, we say those are their position needs, but we also, maybe a lot of their players are elevated by last year. The players at some of these young rookies that they had last year, because the one thing you always hear that Shane says is, oh yeah, the draft was so good because it was, all these guys, they get all these reps. They played more than any other rookies, like basically. Well, is that a result of you have terrible depth and you have not many star players that can fill those positions and you need to be rookies? Or is that a matter of, you just, I don't know, are they actually talented? So I think that we need a year where they go up against a tough schedule with a meaningful quarterback like Matt Stafford to find out if these guys are really good. And then those position needs, like they'll start to fill out here and there. It's going to be very interesting to see how this Giants roster shakes out next year. Is it fool's gold to believe this draft class was as good as it was? Or will we see some regressions next year? All of that, as Joe Shane noted, might be amplified and elevated if they nail the quarterback thing. And for maybe a year, maybe 2 years, I think Matt Stafford can do that. But you have to continue. He has to nail it in free agency. That will be the only way the Giants somehow, can slay the gauntlet of a schedule that they have, and it is a gauntlet. I'm very curious about this. If they had this year's schedule on tap, I think the Giants with Matt Stafford and a home run free agency, the Giants could be a playoff team. But they don't have this year's schedule. They have next year's schedule, and it is a whopper, as you know.
It is horrible. Just to give everybody an idea of who the Giants have on there, not only do you have to face a division with the Commanders and Eagles and 2 teams in the NFC Championship game, and then there's the Cowboys. You got the Packers, playoff team, Vikings, playoff team, Chiefs, playoff team, Chargers, playoff teams, 49ers. Who knows? That one, the Bears should be better. The Broncos are a playoff team. The Lions, the Raiders, who, if Stafford doesn't go there, winds up there, the Giants will have to see them. And then, and then the Saints and Patriots, there's some wins possibilities there. But yeah, you're right. And it is rough. Now, I want to ask you about this as well, too. When you look at the way that you're hearing the stuff about the potential Stafford, you're hearing what Shane, he's being cagey, but you're hearing what potentially could happen in terms of what the Giants could do in this offseason. We've talked at length beforehand about trust in Shane, and we're surprised that he came back. Do you feel a little bit more comfortable now that Shane, hearing some of these plans and what's going on, do you feel you have a little bit more confidence in him taking those swings that he says he's going to have to take?
I don't. Here's why. The problem is, if there was a first-year GM in here and making all these decisions, you would look at this and say, all right, yeah, okay, they want to compete right away while also, kind of forging and building the roster the right way. Talk about those holes that we just talked about. That's fine. But this is the fact that it's Shane that's doing this. It almost reeks of desperation. I almost question the motive behind it, because I'm like, okay, yeah, you want to go get Matt Stafford, that's fine. But the Rams are also a very smart front office, and do they know that the cliff is coming? And they're kind of just finessing the Giants because they know that Shane is not a good GM. So, but if you had the luxury, let's say the Raiders did this, right? Raiders, new GM, would probably look pretty smart for, using their first round pick on something that's not a quarterback, acquiring Matt Stafford, putting him with Brock Bowers, and obviously they have Max Crosby there too. They have some pieces there. That would look a whole lot better than Joe Shane doing this to save his job. It's just an optics thing. It just is I always have to question my back always arches when I see Joe Shane making a move like this, because all right, what's the return going to be? Because if this is you kind of doing that, throwing a Hail Mary in order to save your ass next season, that's not the motive behind it needs to matter. I think it does. You understand that he wants to save it, but you also can't mortgage the future for Matt Stafford. You just can't.
Yeah, and looking at his decision making beforehand these last few years and some of these things, I still just don't see it. I'm on a watch of, okay, when does the glare from John Mara come over, looking over at Joe Shane at some point when they look and this team is behind, and that proverbial patience that he has it just burns out. I'm just waiting for that moment there, because even with that, it's just rough. Now, when you look at this roster, you look at the Giants' salary cap to begin with. I'll start with that. They have, according to Over the Cap, $48.3 million they have free. And obviously, to get Stafford, they're going to have to make some moves or extend them, what have you, and to free up some space. I'll ask you this in both ways, in terms of making room and also possibly adding other people other than Stafford. Who's a potential surprise player that you could see being let go in order to free up some of that cap space? And who's somebody that you think we're not really looking at that could be on the Giants' free agency radar per se and become a signing?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'll tell you what, the name that that you look at in terms of, a guy that could become maybe a cap casualty on the Giants is, maybe Bobby Okereke. I'd have to look up the numbers, but I remember seeing that he's, one of the names there that could potentially become a cap casualty. And even though he's a really solid player and was a captain and didn't have a great season this year, but just one of those players that when the Giants were at their peak a couple of years ago, like he was a really big part of that. But I'm of the camp that in terms of free agency, I'm really big into like, even if you have to overpay him, Trey Smith, you just, that is a very big position need. And if you're getting Stafford in here, you're going to need obviously some protection. You get Trey Smith there on the inside because clearly they're not moving Evan Neal and pulling him Mekhi Becton and putting him at guard for whatever reason, even though he's a much better run blocker than he is a pass blocker and has proven that, that he does not have the legs to be a tackle or the footwork for sure. I go in and I go and throw the bag at Trey Smith because you have a decent amount of cap space. You have a lot of cap space. And you got to protect Stafford. Like this offensive line was embarrassing at the end of the year, but I do agree with Joe Shane that when healthy, it was fine. And the Andrew Thomas injury was the big linchpin to that, right? Once he went down, everything started to get wonky and out of order. And that, that happens, but it's you got to prevent that from happening. So prevent that from happening by signing a guy in Trey Smith, who's obviously proven to be a great guard in this league. And then just fill out your offensive line like that, So that's the name I would look out for, and maybe see if you can bring a Darius Slayton back because I think he's a really, really good wide receiver too, and somebody that opposite Malik Neighbors, who I think would have just an explosion in year two under Matt Stafford, would fit really well there.
Nice. And to give you an idea on Okereke, and I just lost it here, March 17th is definitely going to be a date to look at because he's due, I think, a roster bonus of about $3 million right now on St. Patrick's Day, which for a lot of these guys, when you're looking at it, it's like, I don't know, they like to go to these third or fifth day into the league year in these contracts. And also that can be negotiated between the agents and the teams to delay that, what have you. But I always thought, it's like, wait a minute, what? Of all years, why are you going to have it on St. Patrick's Day? Like, nah, you got to see some players going out there having fun, what have you. Like, hey, by the way, they cut you. It's not a lucky day. Nah, this is rough. But to look at this as well too, if they do cut them before June 1st, they can save about $3.5 million right there. So that would definitely get them under, at least to make the trade for Stafford before the draft and all that stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of different things. Like they have some tough decisions that are coming up. And speaking of tough decisions, let's segue over to the draft and that number 3 pick. If they do trade for Stafford, and I know you said Travis Hunter initially as well too, but look at the Browns. The Browns are playing this cagey thing of, we're going to take a quarterback. We're thinking about taking a quarterback. And I think it's a smokescreen to try to get the Giants to give up picks if they were doing this, especially if they don't land Stafford. Like, oh, you want a quarterback? We're going to take one beforehand. Give us some picks. And there's the NFL version of a shakedown going on. Give us some picks and we'll go away. Nah. Mm-hmm. But say if the Browns do decide to change course and take Travis Hunter because they have issues with Amari Cooper. Well, Amari Cooper is getting older and Travis Hunter instantly helps them there. And also they can help them out on defense as well too, even though they're pretty set at corner as well too, but they can use them both sides. He's a talent like that. Who's a guy that you think non-quarterback wise would be a good guy for the Giants to take if Hunter is off the board?
Oh man, if Hunter's off the board, are we assuming that Abdul Carter's off the board too? Because he is just okay. Yeah, he's
all. I think he's going 1 and all this stuff.
Yeah, I think so. That's what it seems like down here, especially. Like that's the one thing you just keep on hearing. Yeah, I mean, if it's not them, I like, and I was talking to another guy about this the other day with the Giants. Imagine if you put Mason Graham next to Dexter Lawrence. And defensive tackle is definitely a position need for them. You build that defensive front and you just build it like that is what your team is built around almost. It doesn't, I mean, the Giants are going to score freaking 13 points on offense. That won't matter because they're going to score 14 points on offense every game. It doesn't matter because who's going to run past this stout defensive front, what quarterback is going to have time to throw against them? That would be the complete anchor of their defense, the anchor of their team, the linchpin of their team. If you keep that defensive front as hefty as it would be if you acquired Graham, then the Giants, again, like I think there will be some games if they do address that, which I think Graham would be an interesting one. And I think the Giants would could I'm not going to say surprise people because I really don't think they're going to be a good team next year because of their schedule. But I think they could pick off a bunch more wins than they think they can get. Maybe we're talking in the 7-8 win range or something like that. But that's kind of crazy. I mean, that is if everything goes right. If they get Stafford, and again they have that home run free agency, and also they pair Mason Graham with Dexter Lawrence, and he becomes the next Dexter Lawrence. That is a lot of ifs. And even then, my thought is that their ceiling is only 9 wins because the schedule is so just so terrible.
Yeah, it's bad. And I'm thinking when you're looking at everybody that's available, if that's the case where you do lose Hunter number 2, and the Browns said, no, we're not going to take a quarterback. We're just doing this to take Hunter at number 2. Yeah, if I'm Shane, I'm trading back and just trying to see what quarterback needy team that's still available wants to move up and do that. I don't foresee the Jets moving up and getting a quarterback again, a young one. Maybe they do, but I don't foresee that. So the guy I'd really look at, because you can never have too many edge rushers, in my opinion, Jalen Walker out of Georgia. That's a guy I'm looking at as well too. Or if you really want to fall down a few things and pick up, like, say 2, not just 2, but maybe like 3 first rounders or 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and maybe a couple other ancillary picks besides as well too. I drop down to 8-9 and look at Will Johnson, the cornerback out of Michigan. Yeah, I think that would fill out 2 different needs as well too. You garner those picks back, and maybe Mara says if Shane presents the package to Mara and he goes, you know what, yeah, let's do it. Maybe Mara's thinking, okay, yeah, that's good. We can still get a guy in case he messed us up or in case things go wrong. I can give my new general manager some ammo to rebuild his team as well too. So that's one thing I'd probably look at as well. If they trade down and they say 3, yeah, I agree. Hunter's going to be there, but they
certainly need a corner.
After seeing the way that they had issues with that, yeah, they need
oh my God,
they need corner. And that's, if they pulled something where they said corner in the first round, corner in the second round, corner in the third round, I don't think anybody would be upset about that in New York in terms of that.
Not at all.
And finally, this is more of a scene setter in a sort of sense. You know, this is your first combine. And for some people know, like some people may know, some people don't. It's a unique experience in Indy, and it's almost like a convention in a way where you get everybody, all the different reporters and scout the teams and when the scouts and agents, everybody just comes together and then just talks for a long while. What's been your initial reaction in addition, observations from Indianapolis on your first time?
So I would say, and I've been to the city a bunch of times, but I never, it was a while ago. It was like I would say maybe 8 years ago. The combine is the weirdest event ever, and I mean that kind of in a good way. Like, basically, you get all these reporters and all these coaches and all these scouts and all these GMs down here, and obviously the players too. And you send them out here for a week. At night, you don't go out until like 11 p.m. to go hit these bars. You get drunk with these NFL people, and you try to, like, all these reporters are just like hoarding around trying to look for information. It's a very unique experience. It's like kind of bizarre. And here's the kicker. All of this happens. All of this is going down. And I know that most reporters are leaving tomorrow. So, and which, by the way, if you're listening to this, tomorrow is the day the NFL Combine starts. So that to me it's so bizarre the way that this is kind of, and I love it. Like the absurdity I kind of revel in, but at the same time, it's like, what, it's a bonkers event to even explain out loud. But I do like it. That's the one thing I should say, like, it is a ton of fun. I just, I gotta get my liver in check after going to combine and then the Super Bowl earlier this month. It was my body, man. I'm getting old.
You get used to it. Yeah, it's tough. Let's get now. But yeah, like legit. Like there's, I don't want to give away the names in case there's people like because keep those things there. There's a steakhouse around, like you mentioned that everybody congregates at, and you'll see maybe 2 or 3 people start to trickle around like midnight or whatever from different teams. And all of a sudden you just see hordes of people just going swarming around there. Now, mind you, if you look at imagine a bar that's packed and you can barely move around. That's pretty much what it looks like in terms of that. There's also a hotel bar that a lot of people congregate at as well too. That gets crazy. You see a lot of teams there and what have you. But there's a lot of times where that's where you'll start to see some presentations or stuff being floated around early on. It's like you look around like, oh, what's that? Oh, okay. This person's trying to shop for this player or free stuff like that as well too. So there's and then you got the random coffee meet. There's a breakfast place that everybody congregates at, and you see some meetings going on. You start looking, and then you try to get as much as you can information. You go like, hey, what's up? What do you guys talk about? Hey, what's going on? Like, I can't talk about this, but if I had to, blank. All right. So you find all this information. It's really a unique place, and everything's walkable. It's a weird setting, and you do that for 4 nights in a row, and after that, it's like, okay, I'm done. I'll watch everything on TV. Yes. It's something. They're talking about taking it out of Indianapolis and put it on the road. The best thing you can do is leave it there because
I love it here.
It works better. Everything's in a central location. If you took it to like say Dallas, who's really wants it, then you're talking about going between 3 different cities and shuttle buses. No. Keep it in Indy. That's where it belongs at. And you get to hear hear all the crazy stuff that goes on and all the rumors. It's a good spot. It's fun.
It is.
Ryan, thank you very much for taking the time to come on and read Ryan's work as well as Daryl Slater as well too throughout the draft process, not only just the combine, but when free agency starts, the draft, what have you at NJ.com/Giants. He's Ryan Novozinsky. I'm Chris Franklin. Everybody have a good one. See ya.